Okay, wel, diolch yn fawr iawn I chi gyd am y gwahoddiad I ddod yma I siarad chi heno. So I'm going to spend just a brief amount of time here talking about the energy situation in Britain, in Wales, and just some background information about the different types of unconventional gas that may well be extracted here in Wales in the near future. So energy is something that's of critical importance to us all, in fact. And without energy, we would never have crawled out of the primordial slime from which we all originally came. All energy originates from the sun, of course, and that's something which provides great hope for the future. But there's a very, very close link between energy that we get from fossil fuels, in particular, and the development of society as we know it today. So here you can see a graph which shows very clearly that there's the link between the economic performance of global society and the energy extracted from, well, this is almost entirely from fossil fuels. So it's not far off a one-to-one relationship. And where the amount of energy used decreases, then you see a concomitant decrease in economic performance. And here's another graphic representation, I think, that shows over a period of well, that's 40 plus years, how the GDP, so that's economic performance, tracks energy use, to quite a staggering degree. If you look at almost any graph where there is a degree of similarity between two factors, then it would be very difficult to find one which had a greater similarity than that graph there. So you can see some graffiti here, energy crisis and the party's almost over. Well, it's a really big deal what happens with our energy future, because we are coming to a situation where the stocks of fossil fuels that remain are becoming more expensive because they're harder to extract, there are fewer of them, and the large fossil fuel reserves, they're the ones that always get tapped first. So if you stick a spigot in the ground, the chances are you'll hit your largest oil reserves first, and that leaves you with progressively smaller and smaller reserves, which means that there's more effort to go in to extract them, it's more expensive. And so what we have is this evidence of what's happened in the UK's experience. So the UK has been a net importer of energy for the vast proportion of the time since fossil fuels came into common use. What we see in between 1980 and the early 2000s is a very brief and never to be repeated period of export of energy. Either side, that is, of the Piper Alpha disaster, which caused North Sea oil and gas production to reduce quite substantially. I say never to be repeated. That's almost certainly true, but I think we can, with some degree of confidence, say that in the future there will be a large degree of interconnectedness between different countries, which will mean that these import and export figures will, to some degree, become less relevant. But the reasoning to have energy security, I mean, this is a great example of it. We're heading right back up to 50% of energy imports, and that means that we're highly dependent on Qatar for imported gas, on Norway for pipeline gas, and on certainly Saudi Arabia and other oil-producing countries for oil. So that might all be a really good argument for exploiting all the indigenous resources that we have at our disposal, including fossil fuel resources, if we didn't have this thing called climate change. Now on Friday there's going to be the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change is going to be reviewing and publishing its latest findings on the science behind climate change. Climate change is going to have a dramatic effect on us all. It's already having an impact on us, And this is one of the principal reasons why we can't allow new exploitation of fossil fuels in Wales. And it's why Friends of the Earth Cymru is campaigning to say that there should be no new extraction of fossil fuels in Wales, and there should be no new fossil fuel electricity generating infrastructure in Wales. Of course, it's not just about Wales. So there are parts of Wales where it's going to become more of a problem than others, and particularly in terms of sea level rise, coastal flooding and riverine flooding. There are parts of Gwynedd in particular, parts of Conwy in particular, and also, of course, low-lying areas, Cardiff and Newport, that are going to be affected by climate change. But it's countries like Bangladesh which are really going to feel the pinch. The climate change will have a disproportionately significant impact on those people who are least prepared and able to deal with it. So it's going to have a disproportionately huge impact on poorer communities, not just overseas, but here in Wales too. So Friends of the Earth, our the central tenet of what we think about in terms of energy future is that there is no other future than a 100% renewable future. And it's impossible for anyone to argue against that, because fossil fuels, by their very nature, they're either going to run out or they're going to become too expensive to extract. Uranium is certainly, in terms of the good quality uranium that you can use for nuclear reactors, there's a limited supply. So there is no other future than a 100% renewable future. And what we say is, well, if there's no other future than that future, let's get there as quick as possible, because I don't know of many economic success stories in terms of countries that have got that way by lagging behind. And if you look at the examples that we have in Europe today, Denmark, Germany in particular, these are the ones that have been pushing the boundaries in terms of renewables, and, well, what do you know, they're the ones which also have survived and bounced back from the economic recession remarkably well. And we need to get there ASAP. Okay, so we saw that graph of imports and exports. Well, what does it mean to us in tangible economic terms? Well, this is what it means, is that we're spending an increasing proportion of the British national income on importing fuel from elsewhere. So that, while that might make the pension funds in Norway very happy, it might make the oil barons of Saudi Arabia very happy.